No matter what, people will commit to misunderstanding you. What's most important is your commitment to understanding yourself. Hello, you guys. My name is Nkirk Madani, known as NK, and welcome back to Misunderstood. Today, we're yapping about a few things: confronting men, gossiping ex-friends, maturity in friendships, and sober guilt. A few things happened since I recorded last that I really wanted to bring to the pod. Themes of dating and friendships and drinking. These are big topics and themes that we all go through in our day-to-day lives, and especially in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whenever. Honestly, these are very relevant items to discuss. But before we get into today's episode, take some time right now to rate the show Misunderstood 5 stars. This podcast is my pride and joy. I'm so happy that so many of you have come to love the podcast. I get your DMs, I get your messages. Each and every one makes me so happy. Something that is free and easy to do for everybody who comes across this show is to leave a 5-star rating on both Apple and Spotify. This really helps the continuation of the show, and I know that you guys love it, so please give back in that free and easy way so that we can continue listening to Misunderstood every single week. Thank you so much. Also, share it with a friend. This Misunderstood community is growing, which makes me really happy. We are getting more and more people in our group chat. I've mentioned our group chat pretty much every single episode. At the end, I always say we have a group chat, which is always linked in the description of every single episode. So if you want to meet like-minded girls and chat and potentially meet in real life, I highly recommend joining our Geneva group chat. It's technically a Bumble group chat. I say Geneva. You can chit chat with some girlies in our club. At this point, it is a club. The Misunderstood Girlies have a club. I love meeting you guys in the wild, and I also love hosting events here in New York City from time to time. So look out for that in the future if you live in New York City or if you're close to New York City. All Misunderstood girls are welcome. All right, let us get into this episode so that it is not super long. I really wanted to center this episode on these 4 items, but actually, I'm so sorry. Before we get into this episode, I do have to say, if you're watching on video, you see that I'm back at the place that I recorded last episode. I came here a little later than usual, and this is just a busier time in this building. So unfortunately, I myself hear the noises. I'm really hoping and praying that this microphone is doing its best to absorb that noise so that you aren't hearing it. That is my hope and prayer right now. Help a girl out and share the podcast. Talk about it on social, get the ratings up, get the views up so that we can actually be in a dedicated podcast studio so I don't have to worry about the sound. I think I do a pretty good job at editing in post-production to make it so that wherever I have ever been while recording, I have done my best to eliminate the background noise. But I'm just saying this up top because I can already hear the noise and it is making me feel a type of way, but we are just going to push through the episode. That's what we do. We push through adversity. Anywho, we're diving right into the topics of today's episode. Number 1 is confronting men. So this is in direct correlation to last week's podcast episode. If you have not listened to it, it is podcast episode 81. So I fully recommend pausing this, listening to that in entirety, coming back so that you have the context. I will not be rehashing that story. It was a very long story. We are talking about what happened after. So this is essentially the part 2. I did mention in that episode that I was going to potentially confront this guy. TLDR, this guy ghosted me for about 2 days. And the only reason why he reached back out was because I contacted his employer about a ticket that I was promised to have for a future concert here in New York City. So that's the only reason why. If that wasn't in play, he would have ghosted me. So the principle still stands. He fucked up. And one thing about me, I'm not going to let people treat me negatively. I will always stand up for myself. And I really encourage everyone to do that. I am very much a direct person. I don't take bullshit. And whenever I'm presented with bullshit, I'm going to address it. I have my phone right here. I'm actually just going to read off the exchanges and what happened after the fact. The name that we gave him for the story is G. At the beginning of our text thread, which was now over 3 weeks ago, he had told me that he was going to be at a specific bar on July 9th. Actually, you know what's so funny? Episode 81 went live. I got a few comments from the girls about the episode and how they thought about it. One comment was about how I should have disclosed his name. I'm not really in the business of doing that. So I'm just going to address that right here and now. I'm not in the business of directly name dropping people. I have said that in an episode way back. I just don't think that's the most classy way to go about things. I can explain an entire story in so much detail, but still not say their name. So I'm not even disclosing it. You can go find out the information for yourself if you really wanted to, but I'm just not in the business of doing that. So his name is G, but I will be sharing the bar that he said. I feel like this is my way of saying, probably don't go to this bar. You might run into him because he frequents this bar. The bar is called Radagast Hall and it's in Brooklyn. So I texted my friend the day before July 9th and I said, hey, I have a situation. Do you want to come on a mission with me? She said, I already know he's in the wrong. Even though I don't know what's going on, I'm there. So me and my friend, we meet at Radagast Hall at 5 p.m. on Thursday, July 9th. Y'all, I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. This was straight out of a movie. Upon walking in, literally the first person who I see is G. He's right there. He's walking by me, but he stops and we have a 3-second stare down. And my friend says, hey, let's just walk to the bar. I do not say a word to him. The most priceless part of it was that his face looked like he saw a ghost. He looked so scared. He looked so uncomfortable. Just that alone made me feel that closure. Just that alone made me feel like I got my revenge. Not saying that I was out for revenge. I did think that if I went to this bar, there was a 50-50 chance I would run into him. I knew that. Thankfully, the FIFA game was on. So I did have a reason I could have gone there to watch the game with my friend, which we did end up watching the game. But it was just so hilarious because I know that I made him feel a little bit shitty in comparison to how he made me feel. Confronting someone is the best way to do it. And in this situation, I didn't even have to say words, just my presence made him shake in his boots, which he absolutely deserved for how he treated me. And the funniest part of this story was that he ended up texting me on Sunday. So that's pretty much 4 days later, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Funny enough, I was with a friend who read all the text messages and she knows the entire story. I got the text message from him while sitting with her. I audibly gasped and I say, I truly cannot believe this is happening. You really could not make this shit up if you tried. So I will read you guys the message that he said. Sunday, 4:01 p.m. Hey, I'm curious, why did you show up at Radagast on Thursday? I'm still in disbelief. I'm even more in disbelief because before he sent that text, he called me twice and I have D&D on all the time. So most of my calls go straight to voicemail unless it's one of my approved contacts. And of course, he's not an approved fucking contact. So his ass went straight to voicemail. Saw the text first because I was holding my phone. I show my friend. Then I go into my caller log and I see that he called me twice before sending that text, which is borderline crazy. Why are you calling me out of the blue? We are not on speaking terms. We aren't on good terms. You don't get access to me anymore. You lost that. Why the hell are you calling me out of the blue twice and then texting me? So I left his ass on red. Of course, I just let it be. I will not speak to him again. I said that in the last episode and I'm standing on business because when you're met with disrespect, you really should not backpedal, girls. Do not backpedal to somebody who was okay with disrespecting you. All right. He was okay with disrespecting me. Great. You will never speak to me again. You will never have access to me again. And I don't know if I told you guys this, but I removed him from my following on Instagram. I muted him from Instagram so he can't see my stories. I did all that. I also do not follow guys who I'm involved with in any capacity or dating or talking to at all. I do not follow them on social media. That is my own rule. I don't need their energy unless you are my boyfriend and someone super significant to me. If you're not in those buckets, I do not care about you. You really don't exist in my world. Yes, that sounds harsh, but the girls who get it. They can just take up so much emotional and mental space for no reason. The mind games and all that. I won't have it, which is why I don't do it. The entire time he was following me and I didn't care up until he completely disrespected me. And that very day I removed him. That is what I would recommend anyone doing if you're in a similar situation. I mean, I hope that you're not in a similar situation, of course, but if you find yourself in a similar situation, such as I highly recommend just completely going cold and fully removing access. I personally feel that the way I handled this was the best possible outcome, because now I just think about every single time he picks up his phone, he's probably thinking, oh, why didn't you text me back? Why didn't you text me back? Because I don't owe you shit and I'm moving on. I have moved on. You are in the past tense. It gives me comfort to know that I left him on red and he's probably spiraling. He wants answers. He won't get his answers ever. And that's fine. And I'm moving on. On another note, related to confronting men and relating to dating, y'all already know I hate dating apps. That is no secret. But I'll be honest, probably a few days after the whole G incident, I was just mindlessly swiping on Bumble and Hinge. I hate both equally. I don't think one is better than the other. Actually, now that I think of it, I think that Bumble is slightly better than Hinge. I do believe that. The cream of the crop and the potential people are optically better looking on Bumble. I swear. I fully swear on that. However, there was this guy who matched with me first. How I know that is because when I swiped right on him, we matched. So that means that he matched me first. This time I'm fully stating names because it was a short interaction, but it was annoying and I didn't like it. His name's Steve. He's 34 and he lives in New York. That's not giving you that much information because there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people who fit that description. So good luck with that. But from the very first few exchanges, mind you, we only had probably 6 back and forth messages. So not very many, but unfortunately in those few messages, he really showed his true character and I was so turned off by it. His first message was G I. And I said, I don't even know what that means. He used it as a compliment. Now we're talking about basketball. I told him that I played basketball growing up and his message, it felt like such a gross message. I wish I freaking screenshotted it. But in summary, it said, quote, spank your ass in one-on-one basketball, then take you out for a drink because I'll feel bad when I beat you. I don't like that. I just don't like that verbiage. I don't like how he said it so matter-of-factly, also so casually. It was just the way in which it was said felt very sleazy. It only takes a few interactions for most girls to understand if a guy is intentional about wanting to actually date with intention or they just want to fuck. Let's be honest. It is one of those two things. And after that message, I realized that he wasn't an intentional dater. He really was just trying to have an easy life. That's the situation. I essentially said, oh, I'll just take the drink though. And he unmatched me. Who the fuck does he think he is? I thought that was just hilarious. He saved us both the trouble because I realized very quickly right after that message, I'm not compatible with this guy. I am not compatible with somebody who would talk like that, who would go about a conversation in that way. So the fact that he ended up unmatching me, yes, it kind of hits the ego just because, of course, it hits the ego, but we have to think about it big picture. He's not the one. So if he's not the one, it doesn't really matter. And right after that happened, I actually saw a video on my For You page. Fully believe that your For You page is listening to every single word that you say and they know what's going on, of course. I saw a video pop up titled Suburban Women Are Not Compatible with Men of Lower Privilege. That TikTok video really rang a bell in my brain. I am used to a specific type of lifestyle. That's what I grew up in. That's what I've seen for the majority of my life. So of course, that is an incompatibility when you then try to date people who aren't used to your socioeconomic background or aren't able to hold conversations in a intellectual way. That will be a resentment point for both sides. This was a perfect classic example of that trope. Moving on to our second point, which is gossiping ex-friends. So this came about actually the day I went to the Brooklyn bar to confront the guy. My friend who came with me, I'm not saying her name for anonymity because she was the one who told me this information. So let's get into it. Me and her haven't seen each other in a while. We haven't seen each other since December. So it's been a full 6 months, 7 months at that point. We were catching up about life and it was a really good catch up. But halfway through the catch up, she said, "Hey, I do have to bring this up to you. We need code names for everyone. C. There's no C in her name. All right. So you internet sleuths who try to look things up or whatever, her name, there's no C in her name. But C brought up to me that she had been in contact with this other girl who used to be our mutual friend. Mind you, C had also been traveling for a good amount of time. And that's actually most of the reason why we hadn't seen each other in 7 months. She had been traveling. I had been dealing with my surgery, injury, all that stuff. Anyways, C had told me when we were at the Brooklyn bar, our past mutual friend, she's still friends with this person. I am no longer friends with this person. And I realized I also did tell the story of this specific mutual that I'm no longer friends with. I've told this on the podcast. Just a refresher. This person texted me in February, a week after my knee surgery that I had posted about on all platforms that she follows me on. She contacted me asking for me to help her with something work related for her own project, completely disregarded or completely ignored the fact that I had just had surgery, did not bring it up. And that rubbed me the wrong way. I'm a very direct person. I told her that via text, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And more importantly, it didn't really feel as though you cared that I just had surgery. You never brought it up. Please keep that in mind in the future." And I respectfully declined the invitation to do said thing that she had texted me about. That's the summary of what had happened. So my friend, C, she had told me that this mutual friend met up with C, showed her the text messages between her and I, and said, "This is what NK said. We're no longer friends anymore." I unfollowed her on TikTok. She also said, "Hey, I want you on my podcast." Funny enough, she also has a podcast. I'm not going to say anything about the podcast. I'm not going to say any identifying information because that's not the point of the story. But she does have a podcast, and she told my friend C, "Hey, I want you on the podcast, but don't bring NK up and don't say that you met me through her." And my friend C said, "All right, this seems kind of strange." She did the podcast. My friend C, as we're sitting in this Brooklyn bar, said, "I don't think she liked my response to reading your text message between her because I was on your side." My friend C told her nothing that NK said was wrong. She was being honest and direct. And also, you didn't respond to her. You just didn't say anything. So it doesn't really show that you wanted to continue a friendship with her either. So I was thankful my friend C brought this up to me, but it really stuck with me. Later that day, I thought, people will seriously keep your name in their mouth forever. It's funny, I actually made a TikTok video about this months ago, but now it's very relevant to me right now. People will seriously always find a reason to keep your name in their mouth, either from jealousy or from a weird, envious thing. There's so many potential reasons, but I was just very confused on why this person went to that length to try to interfere in a way with my friendship with other people. Truly do not care that we're not friends anymore. And it's honestly for the best. But to be gossiping and bringing my name up when I have not thought about you and your existence for months now. Literally, I've not thought about you since that text message in February. So why are you bringing this up to my friend now? I just think that is so weird. I think that's also very telling of your character. I think with friends, as I've shared so many episodes about friends on this very podcast, but there are so many ways that people will do very weird, conniving things behind your back. It will truly show they were never your friend in the first place. And there were so many times actually before all the text messages happened that ultimately ended up dissolving our friendship. She was very surface level. She also cared way more about content than actually learning about other people. And it was very, very evident with all of our hangouts. And other people brought this up as well. So honestly, I already knew I am not missing out on anything. I'm not missing out with being in that friend group. I'm not missing out with any of it, truly. I would rather be alone than be around people who make me feel alone. I've talked about that before. That's what I would always say to anybody who is struggling with friendships or feels uncomfortable or sad that you don't have friends anymore, or friends are treating you shitty and then you don't have those friends. Well, it's actually for the best. It's for the best. Truly, ever since February, when I was going through so much shit with my knee and recovery and feeling so low, it's almost as if the universe intentionally shed people from my life that were not serving me and were not supposed to be there. I really felt that full force in February and March, where there were a handful of people who really showed their true colors and weren't really there for me in my true time of need. And I think having a surgery and having recovery, that is one of the most in times of need scenarios you could even think. I really learned who my friends were and who definitely was not meant to be in my life. But I really wanted to tell that story because I just thought that was pretty interesting that after all this time, somehow, some way, you're still bringing me up. That just shows that I am an unforgettable person. People have said this, but I do have an aura that is very magnetic. I think also a lot of people can mistreat people like that. If you also have an aura and you also have this light about you, people can use that and try to spin it negatively and try to make you feel as though you're the bad guy, but you're not. They are just unhealed, they're insecure, and they need to work on themselves, which is not a you problem. Next topic is maturing in friendship. So still on the friendship theme, I have a newer friend. Me and her went to a sports bar to watch one of the FIFA soccer games. We were essentially rooting for different teams. She was rooting for England. I was rooting for Norway. England ended up winning the game. It's interesting also because the bar was definitely split pretty much 50-50, but I think most of the bar did want England to win. So everyone around us was cheering. Wasn't fully I hate England. I never said that, but I was very sympathetic towards Norway. And if you know anything about the Norway team, the entire world was really rooting for them too. And also Norway has never even gotten this far, but England has won in the past. I saw some of the Norway team crying on the screen, and I kept on saying, I feel bad. I feel bad. I'm really sympathetic towards them being sad that they lost. And my friend got annoyed and upset that I was audibly and very outwardly saying, "Aw, so sad" about Norway. It was very interesting because it very quickly turned into an argument brought on by her. And I felt very uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable at the fact that me expressing myself in that way made her feel upset. And I understand her team won and she wants to be happy about that. And her biggest argument point was that it's hard to be happy and excited when you're saying, I feel bad, I'm empathetic towards Norway, which in my brain, it still fully didn't sit right with me in the moment. I really was taken aback. Also, the conversation, it just kept on escalating because it sounded like she was trying to minimize how I felt. And by me trying to explain myself, I think she also felt minimized by me. So overall, it felt like such a strange misunderstanding that took place in the bar. We were around other people. I just felt my heart drop. I felt my stomach drop because I thought immediately back to other situations with other past friends who have taken one instance and used that as their point of ending a friendship. Something in brain, my heart sank and I felt very sad and I felt very uncomfortable. And I went very quiet after we had talked. I went very quiet. And essentially, we both went very quiet for probably 15 minutes, just sitting at the bar. We were sitting next to each other, but we were so quiet. We were on our phone. I was drinking my beer. In that 15-minute span, it gave me a lot of time to just settle. It gave me a lot of time to see her side a little more because the way that she came at me at the beginning just felt like an attack. And that was very jarring and very scary. But when I sat with it, I started to think, okay, well, I can see a point in terms of her not wanting to feel that the friend who she's with isn't happy about her team that ended up winning. I can see that side. So when we ended up finally getting up, leaving, we took a walk. I initiated us taking a walk, and I also initiated, hey, I really don't want to be upset with you. I don't want us to have a disagreement about this. I also understand that you probably felt that you couldn't celebrate, and I don't want you to feel like that as well. And I also did not want to come off insensitive. So I apologized for that. Then she immediately said, I fully apologize because the way I came at you also was not okay. In situations with friendships, one of the biggest things that can easily break a friendship is feeling misunderstood by the other party. Feeling that your friend doesn't really hear you or see you, that is truly what breaks most friendships. I can think about so many past friendships that dissolved, and I can fully understand most of them were because we had a disagreement and neither person wanted to swallow their pride and just take it on the chin, apologize, and address it head on. That day was a very good reminder of the fact that being mature in friendships is what will save a friendship, what will keep a friendship very healthy. Even if you don't feel as though you are fully in the wrong, just being able to communicate that you see it from someone's point of view is honestly most often all it takes to resolve a conflict. We resolved it very quickly. That was one of the most quick and seamless ways that I have initiated a uncomfortable situation with a friend and having it be very amicable. And we moved on very, very quickly after that. And we were good for the rest of the night. We ended up going to another bar and watching another game. And we were in our same sync as we always are when we hang out. I really wanted to bring that up because I think that is not talked about enough. Being the bigger person, being mature, and understanding that the fight is not worth it at the end of the day. It's not worth losing a friendship over. It absolutely is not. If you're ever in a situation where you feel very slighted, or maybe you just have an uncomfortable season or an uncomfortable situation happen with a friend, if you really care about somebody, you will swallow your pride and you will address it. You will apologize. You will talk it through. That is what saves literally most friendships. The final topic for today is sober guilt. I have been thinking about this for a bit. Me taking a break from drinking has been very premeditated, especially because I have officially started my marathon training for the New York City Marathon. I actually started a few days ago at the time of recording this. I'm also so sore. Walking around is a hassle, unfortunately, but I know that I just have to get into the swing of it and I'll be fine. But I made the conscious decision to really dial back with drinking and essentially not really drink for the next few months. Truthfully, will I not take a sip of alcohol at all? I don't think that is true. I'm not going to say it's not feasible. I could if I really wanted to, but just slowing down with drinking and really having bouts of being sober in the next few months will work for my benefit, of course, with how I train and with my sleep and my immune system and all the good stuff. Conversely, why I wanted to bring this up today is because there is, interestingly enough, a lot of guilt that comes with not drinking when you're an adult in your 20s and your 30s, around your friends, socially, and especially here in New York City, where I reside. I've always said New York City is a playground. It feels as though partying is at the forefront of the culture of New York City. And most things to do, unfortunately, involve alcohol. That is the truth. When I look at everything I do in New York City, socially, 95% of them have a drinking alcohol component. And I think there is a lot of guilt that I have felt about being sober, choosing to be sober. There is the optics of it. There is feeling a little bit of FOMO, feeling a little left out because you're not on the same energy level as other people. You aren't able to really keep up and hang out with people in those capacities because you choose to be sober. And of course, being sober, like anything, is a choice. It's a conscious choice. I really value that. I value the choice to take a step back from the act of drinking. Drinking is very tiring. And of course, there's a lot of things about drinking that aren't amazing. It's expensive. It disrupts your sleep. But here's the thing. I enjoy drinking with my friends and I enjoy going out to fun places and the experience of it all. It is fun, but there is so much guilt I have around not drinking. This past weekend, me and my friends went to brunch right after I ran my first run for my training program. We walked around. We were just thinking on the fly, what should we do? What should we do? Part of me just felt guilty. I felt guilty about sitting at a bar and not drinking. And of course, we can have that conversation about the guilt of sitting at a bar and not drinking or drinking just a club soda or seltzer or Coca-Cola or whatever. I do have a lot of guilt about that, but I shouldn't. That's the point of me even bringing this up. I have the guilt, but I shouldn't have the guilt. I don't have to drink to have fun. I've said that so many times. I do not have to drink to have fun. I do not have to drink to have good friendships. I do not have to drink to be a part of communities and be in spaces that I enjoy. I do not have to drink. It's going to be a very interesting few months, especially also because we are still in the middle of summer. And I also think that drinking is very seasonal too. We drink more when it's warmer, I would say. So it's just interesting timing. And it's also testing me. It's testing my discipline. It is testing my way of life. My lifestyle is changing and it's changing for the better. I know that, but I also just wanted to speak to anybody who is listening who is sober by choice and or not by choice. I've actually heard there are people who are allergic to alcohol, so you can't even drink. So anybody who is sober, who has ever felt that guilt of being in spaces with your friends and feeling that urge to have a drink, even though you've set boundaries for yourself for whatever reason, whether it is training for a marathon like me or just wanting a lifestyle change or just wanting to not drink. You also don't even need a reason. Let me be so clear. Let me put that on record. You do not need a reason not to drink. You can just not drink and everything will be fine and the world will keep on spinning. So I am fully talking to my girlies who are sober. If anyone has any tips that they would like to leave a comment on or submit in a jot form, please feel free to. I would love to hear how people navigate being sober. Because essentially, I'm going to be embarking on this journey. I already have started this journey. I really want to keep you guys updated as much as I can. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a monthly update on how I'm feeling. But I think being sober will be really good for me to flip that switch in my brain, to get more discipline, to feel bodily better. And I'm looking forward to that. All right, you guys, that is the end. That's all I really wanted to talk about in this episode with you guys. I kind of love the thought of picking a few different life topics and chit-chatting like I just did in this episode. I guess I have done that before. This is definitely not the very first time I've done that, but would love to hear if you guys like this style. I'm all about trying new things and I'm all about trying things that are different and engaging at the end of the day. And with that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Misunderstood. Remember to rate the show 5 stars on Apple and Spotify and follow wherever you're listening. Join our Geneva group chat. It is always linked in the description of every single podcast episode. Hang out with me on my other socials, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest at NK Madani. And I will talk to you guys in my next one.